Going back to when the world was covered completely with water, almost every nook and corner was a sanctuary to various creatures and plants. Billions of years later, planet Earth is still teeming with life, big, small, animate, and inanimate. However, no matter how much any two creatures may compare or contrast with one another, no creature bears the exact same traits of another. Differences are what make us unique. They are special gifts given to us in Genesis that establish who and what we are. Why is it that differences are what lead the many creatures of Earth to despise of one another? Even in the most tense of situations, the threatened groups sometimes can't convince one another that differences shouldn't affect their acceptance. Such behaviors allow all hope to collapse among the group members. Those fortunate to accept their differences and believe in faith by loving and forgiving one another often succeed in overcoming the most difficult challenges and complete a very big transition in understanding each other.
Hatred doesn't solve anything, and it leaves one to wonder why after centuries of cruelty, people all over the world just have not learned to accept their differences and get along with one another. The consequences of prejudice, trust, and faith are all explored in a childhood favorite of mine that is both very exciting and sometimes very frightening to watch. I'm the Philosopher of Animation, and this is Animated Movie Axioms.
The movies of Walt Disney Animation Studios have gone on to inspire many of today's most memorable animators of all time. One of the most notable of these animators was Don Bluth. After Bluth saw Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs as a child, he became greatly inspired and garnered a lifelong passion for animation. After working as an animator for Disney on films like Robin Hood, The Rescuers, and Pete's Dragon, Bluth and several other Disney employees resigned from Disney with the goal of reviving the special aspects of animated films, which they believed Disney was beginning to let go of. Throughout the 1980s, Bluth directed 4 feature-length animated films, which are regarded by many fans as the highlight of his career. These movies are mainly remembered for the dark tones they had and mature themes that they explored, which might have made the movies scary and sometimes depressing, considering that their intended audience included children. Personally, I think the inclusion of such elements in a kids' movie, pieced in with the lighter tone sequences, are what made the movies of Bluth fun to watch, especially as a young adult.
Now, in deciding on which of his 1980s releases I consider his finest, though, I often get caught between 2 of them. The first being his directorial debut, The Secret of Nim, while the other being his second and last project he collaborated with famed movie director Steven Spielberg, as well as George Lucas on. It is a film that is so powerful, yet so religious, that it becomes more fascinating to watch every time I view it. Travel back in time with me, as I review and analyze The Land Before Time, released in 1988.
The movie is set in a fictional version of Earth during the Mesozoic era. Everywhere, plants are beginning to die, thus leaving the herbivorous dinosaurs without food. Several herds begin journeying into the west to search for a rumored land known as the Great Valley, where they can be supplied plenty of food and protection from the carnivorous dinosaurs. A mother Apatosaurus gives birth to her only hatchling, whom she names Littlefoot. As Littlefoot grows up and his mother, grandparents, and him continue to search for the Great Valley, Littlefoot begins to wonder whether the valley really exists. His mother tells him that some things can't be seen with eyes, but they can be seen with the heart, which Littlefoot doesn't understand. Littlefoot also attempts to play with a rough-going baby Triceratops named Sarah, but is unable when his mother and her dad force them away from one another because they are different. Later that night, Littlefoot runs into Sarah again and begins to play with her until they are threatened by a ferocious Tyrannosaurus Rex known as Sharptooth. Littlefoot's mom comes to their rescue, but is injured while fighting the Sharptooth. At the same time, an earthquake divides the land in two, separating Littlefoot from his grandparents and Sarah from her parents. Mortally wounded from her battle with Sharptooth, Littlefoot's mom dies after reminding him how he can find the Great Valley. After struggling to overcome the loss of his mom and accepting the difficult journey he must go on, Littlefoot sets out to find the Great Valley, where he may reunite with his grandparents. He tries to convince Sarah to join him, so neither of them will be alone, but she refuses to work with him. While journeying to find the valley, Littlefoot meets up with various other orphaned dinosaurs, including Ducky, a baby Parasaurolophus, Petrie, a baby Pteranodon, and Spike, a baby Stegosaurus, with Sarah stubbornly deciding to tag along eventually.
Growing up in grade school, I went through my childhood obsession phase. My deep interest in dinosaurs! Sorry, I'm feeling very nostalgic at the moment. Everything about them fascinated me, but most especially, what they really looked like and how they really behaved. The Land Before Time is probably the second most remembered dinosaur film of my generation, next to the 1993 cinematic phenomenon, Jurassic Park. Not only is this movie special for the childhood memories that it provides, but when viewed from a certain point of view, the viewer may see that there's more to this childhood gem than meets the eye. One of the special qualities of The Land Before Time is that it features really well-developed characterizations among its main characters, which are the 5 young dinosaurs. Each of the Dino Kids possesses different behavioral traits, which makes them all unique among each other.
Very special.
First, there is the leader of the band, Littlefoot. In many ways, he comes off as your typical coming-of-age character. He is very curious about the world around him, and wants to live by his own freedom against the regulations of the older dinosaurs.
Why can't I play with that 3-horn? We were having fun.
Though a little stubborn at times, Littlefoot is very friendly, and tries to accept the role of a caring leader, which leads the other young dinosaurs to trust him in their journey. Next, there is Sarah, who in contrast with Littlefoot, behaves rather harshly among the dinosaurs who don't look like her. Sarah comes off as weak-minded and incredibly arrogant towards the others, which can be attributed to her father's weak parenting skills.
My father told me that flatheads had very small brains.
She acts as though she has no fear, and teases the other young dinosaurs over it, only to be aware that they know she is frightened when she is in danger as well.
Sarah, it is us!
Sarah is also the independent type of adventurer, thinking she can accomplish everything by herself, only for her to eventually realize that it's important to trust others to accomplish a tough goal successfully.
I'm not afraid of Sharptooth. I hope he doesn't eat any of you. All right.
Ducky is very much like Littlefoot, in that she is a very caring and naive character who doesn't try to judge others for their looks. She has the most spirit out of all the characters, and tries to strengthen their confidence if they begin to lose hope. So Littlefoot appears to trust her the most among the group.
You want to go with me? Yeah. Oh, oh yes, yes, yes. I do.
In contrast with Ducky's character, Petrie is timid, clumsy, and easily frightened. In fact, he's so afraid that he can't get himself to accomplish what pterosaurs are supposed to do.
I flied?
No, you followed.
I fall.
Through the course of the movie, he struggles with overcoming his fears and becomes the most dependent member of the group. Luckily, he eventually learns to look out for his friends when they are threatened, and cares for others besides just himself. The last of the young dinosaurs is Spike. He is the youngest of the group, having been discovered by Ducky when he hatched from his egg. Being a newborn, he has several limitations, and is often unaware of certain situations being intense. As he grows older, he learns to be more useful, and do more than just eat everything in sight. Littlefoot's mother is the driving force of the journey Littlefoot takes. She is very devoted to her only child, and teaches him everything that she is aware Littlefoot will have to know in the future, as if she is aware of the events that are to come. She is very brave, and selflessly protects her son, as well as Sarah. Taking away the life of Littlefoot's mom, and serving as the destructive force of the journey, is the other significant supporting character, Sharptooth. I swear, Sharptooth is the most threatening Tyrannosaurus featured on the big screen. He can jump like a giant frog, maneuver through a tight space of thorned branches, bring down a whole wall of rocks with his bare head, and even survive a ridiculously steep fall.
You know, with powers like those, he could probably tear the murderer of the Jurassic Park franchise mascot to shreds. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Spinosaurus. You better watch your back.
Anyway, Sharptooth is one of the reasons this movie turned out to be quite frightening for many of its younger viewers. He doesn't give up on hunting his prey down, as if he has a specific motive in getting rid of the main characters. It could be that, by blinding Sharptooth with a thorn in one of his eyes, that he has developed a deep personal hatred for Littlefoot and longs for revenge.
All of these well-developed characters help to illustrate the symbolism in the story of The Land Before Time. The first thing many viewers of The Land Before Time notice is its recurring plot element of dinosaurs from various species refusing to work with one another, nor allowing their hatchlings to play with creatures that look different from them. The movie delves into the limitations and hardships that come from being prejudiced among individuals who are somehow different from us, whether through how they appear or think.
Littlefoot.
Come, Sarah. Three horns never play with long necks.
In the movie, Sarah appears to act prejudiced to her advantage. She is the only one of the 5 dinosaurs who supports such behavior, thinking it'll give her authority. By acting the way she does, Sarah helps bring about a downfall in the journey, whereas the dinosaurs need to work together in order to reach the valley and survive.
While the movie's exploration of prejudiced behavior is easy to make out, what many viewers might not notice is that The Land Before Time contains a number of religious allegories that make it comparable to such stories in the Bible, as well as beliefs in the Catholic faith. These allegories are one of the reasons I consider this to be Bluth's finest work, because it adds a lot of depth to the story.
First, the plot of the movie is very reminiscent of the tale of Exodus. In Exodus, Moses is given a task to lead his people, the Jews, away from a force threatening their lives, to search for the promised land, while having to cross a vast desert with very few resources to support their survival, except their faith, and with their enemies, the Egyptians, on their trail. Littlefoot takes on the role of a Moses-like character, having to lead the 4 other dinosaurs, who like him are all herbivorous, away from their enemies, the carnivorous dinosaurs. Their only way to reach the Great Valley, which is the movie's version of the Promised Land, is to keep following the sun, or Great Bright Circle.
I hope.
Besides his similarities with Moses, Littlefoot also bears some close connection to another significant religious figure from the Bible, and not only him, but his mother as well.
Littlefoot's mother doesn't only look after her son, but she is very devoted to teaching him something he must know as a member of his group, the Plant Eaters, in order to ensure he he will succeed in his quest.
Well, how do you know it's really there?
Some things you see with your eyes. Others you see with your heart.
This quote becomes a big motif for the movie's plot. By teaching him how we can find the Great Valley, Littlefoot's mother can be viewed by the audience as a Jesus Christ type of figure, in that she is like a prophet, giving Littlefoot an idea of the faith he must believe in.
And more fresh, cool water than you could ever drink.
When Sharptooth comes in and tries to eat Littlefoot and Sarah, Littlefoot's mom arrives to defend her son and a child of her faith by sacrificing herself to save the two kids from the sin they have committed by running off into danger. Much like how Jesus died to save his people from their sins when he was condemned by Pontius Pilate to die on the cross.
Dear sweet little.
Before she dies, though, his mom once again reminds him how he can find the valley and promises to be with him throughout his quest, even if he can't see her.
Why do I have to know you're gonna be with me?
I'll be with you. Even if you can't see me.
What do you mean if I can't see you? I can always see you.
Littlefoot, let your heart guide you. It whispers. So listen closely.
Though the mother's passing is a very depressing scene, it is followed by a more comforting moment that makes another reference to the Catholic faith about death.
Why did I wander so
Littlefoot
far
blames
from
Sharptooth,
home?
his mother, and then even himself for his mom's death.
Not your mother's fault.
It is then that a kind old dinosaur named Rooter tells him that her death was simply a part of life, and that it is no one's fault.
The great circle of life has begun. But you see, not all of us arrive together at the end.
What'll I do? I miss her so much.
And you'll always miss her. But she'll always be with you. As long as you remember the things she taught you. In a way, you'll never be apart. For you are still a part of each other.
My tummy
In other words, though his mother is not with him physically, she lives forever in spirit and in the many things about life that she has taught him. Thus, when Littlefoot overcomes his tragic loss, he finds it deep within him that by trusting the faith his mother taught him and following the path of the sun, he can make it to the Great Valley. This is all similar to the Catholic faith, where if Christians place their trust in God and believe in him, they can make it to heaven when they pass away. It is from this part in the movie that Littlefoot begins to take on a Christ-like characterization of his own. When he meets up with the other orphan dinosaurs, he puts himself in his mother's footsteps and teaches them that the path of the Great Bright Circle is the path to the Great Valley. Ducky, Petrie, and Spike trust him the most along the way, whereas Sarah is in doubt on whether Littlefoot really knows the way to the valley.
When the young band begins to end their journey, the movie displays what is, in my opinion, the most powerful piece of religious symbolism in its plot.
Furious from not making it to the valley after climbing a steep hill, Sarah decides to leave the group, thus letting herself go from the faith. She even goes so far as to insult Littlefoot's mother, which is almost equivalent to a sinner taking God's name in vain.
My mother. Then she was the stupid long neck too. Take that back. Never. Take it back.
What's so heartbreaking about this scene is how Sarah says such harsh things towards the same soul who risked her life to save Sarah, despite that they were two different species of dinosaur.
Afterwards, Ducky, Spike, and Petrie, having all agreed that Sarah's path is easier, also abandon the faith and lead themselves into a frightening place that is very much like a prehistoric version of hell.
Sarah thinks this is the easier way, and yet there's lava everywhere? At least if you went on the path Littlefoot took, there's a good chance you'll survive if you trip.
Eventually, when the four young dinosaurs land themselves in trouble, they've also landed themselves in danger of death, and the hellish setting makes this similar to the belief of a sinner suffering for the sins they've committed and having to face eternal damnation in hell. Littlefoot reveals another part of his Christ-like character by risking damnation on himself and sacrificing his life to save his friends from the sins they committed, in going down the wrong way. After getting rescued from some attacking Pachycephalosaurus by her friends disguised as a tar-like monster, Sarah becomes aware of the sin she has committed by leading herself and her friends into danger. In the final act of the movie, the dinosaurs are all able to redeem themselves by defeating Sharptooth and re-accepting the faith.
So, rocks couldn't harm him, thorns couldn't harm him, and a 200-foot fall into a deep chasm couldn't harm him, yet it took drowning to finish him off. Who is this guy, a prehistoric version of Rasputin?
The soul of Littlefoot's mother leads them into the Great Valley, much like God accepting a deceased soul into heaven. Not only have the kids reunited with their parents, but they have discovered what was really important about the journey they took, and that they have accepted one another, despite their differences.
Littlefoot, you found it! Yep, yep, yep.
After realizing that this movie felt so reminiscent of my own religion, how else can I praise it? Well, to back up the themes are the movie's artistic elements that make it sound and feel like a great adventure. One thing I really admire about Don Bluth is his animation style. While certain animators are willing to transfer to the latest technological advancements available, Don Bluth has always had a deep passion for the traditional pen and ink style used in many of the Walt Disney productions he grew up watching, and it translates really well in The Land Before Time.
Over 600 backgrounds were drawn for this movie, all of which the production team at Sullivan Bluth Studios copied by the naked eye while doing tons and tons of research. The environments bring to mind the paintings one would view in a museum or scholarly book on prehistoric Earth, from the way they are illustrated with such natural and sometimes grim looks. The animation also does a superb job with heightening the religious tone of the movie, particularly the shots near the end of Littlefoot talking to his mother's spirit in the form of a cloud shining down on him and the valley. The barren landscapes, ominous skies, and withered trees make the movie look and feel so apocalyptic, but fascinating to watch. In contrast, the Great Valley has a very heavenly, Garden of Eden-like depiction, and the shots that show the valley in its entirety feature illustrations worthy for a gallery. The movie doesn't feature a vast variety of dinosaurs and prehistoric species, and they aren't very accurate in looks and behavior, but as with most dinosaur films, it wasn't meant to be a paleontology documentary. The creatures do, however, help give the movie a very lively and spontaneous depiction of what prehistoric Earth might have been like. Also strengthening the epic tone of the film is its soundtrack, composed by James Horner. This was his second time composing for Bluth, having previously composed the score and songs for An American Tail.
Up to this point, American animated family films were almost all certain to contain musical numbers. Now, I do enjoy musical films, even animated ones, but with a story that contains a lot of trials, I often get the feeling that those films are better off featuring vast and beautiful musical scores as accompaniment.
Considering how The Land Before Time is primarily a children's movie, the choice Bluth made to keep musical numbers out was the right choice in my opinion, because Horner's score is just amazing. The selection of musical compositions is ideal for a religious prehistoric adventure film like this one. The scores are peaceful, thunderous, angelic, and perfectly support the tone of the scenes they are featured in. My personal favorite music piece is the score played during the opening prologue sequence known as the Great Migration. Starting off very smooth during the undersea shots, it builds up to a more lively sound once the narrator starts to speak and ends with a serene finish as we witness Littlefoot's birth.
Now, following in the footsteps of two previously released animated films, similar in both tone and style to The Land Before Time, including Martin Rosen's 1978 adaptation of Watership Down and its theme song Bright Eyes, and Bluth's 1982 project The Secret of NIMH and its theme song Flying Dreams, the soundtrack of this film is given the ideal finishing touch. A celestial theme song performed by pop legend Diana Ross, entitled If We Hold On Together.
Played during the closing credits, after the film's heartwarming ending, the movie's messages about love, trust, and faith are all beautifully summarized within the lyrics of this song, accompanied by Orner's heavenly score and Ross's siren-like voice. The song sounds almost like a church hymn. In fact, the song feels like a message from a guardian angel watching over someone in need of hope and love.
When I listen to this amazing song, I feel like my childhood self, being mesmerized by how different this felt compared to what I was used to hearing in most animated films. In fact, I feel like meditating right now. This movie became a really big hit when it was released on the same day as Walt Disney Animation Studios' Oliver & Company, which it surpassed both critically and financially at the box office. Overall, I think this movie holds up really well almost 25 years after its release.
The Land Before Time has always held a very special spot in my heart, and I hope it always will for as long as dinosaurs and movies fascinate me. It's always a pleasure to be reminded of the lessons this movie teaches about life and death, especially when such things happen as I get to be more of an adult. It may just be that love, trust, prejudice, sin, faith, and forgiveness have all existed on Earth for a very long time. In fact, they might have all existed in our world long ago, in the Land Before Time.
I'm the Philosopher of Animation, and I believe that animated films are the most superior form of movie making. See you next time on Animated Movie Axioms.